on the agenda. Is it being betrayed? That'll be our big debate. All of that coming up. First, let's get the weather.
Hi there, Aidan McGivern here with the latest forecast from the Met Office. Showers overnight will continue in many places, but eventually clear spells will develop, and under those clear skies, a frost and fog is likely. But for the time being, low pressure in charge of the weather. A couple of lows across the UK bringing weather fronts in. Those weather fronts have stalled across central parts of the UK. So overnight, they'll continue to bring some persistent rain for a time to Northern Ireland, for example, North Wales, Northern England and the North Midlands. But eventually the rain turns more patchy, more on and off. And increasingly, it will be showers rather than longer spells of rain. Very showery towards the south and southwest with a gusty wind, as well as the far north. But in between, some clear spells and a touch of frost first thing. Quite murky, I think, across central parts of England into Wales, northern England, with some fog and low cloud in places. That'll lift through the morning, brighter skies return, and by the afternoon, showers will be confined to the southwest and the north and northeast, where there could be some longer spells of rain and a strong wind. Otherwise, away from these showers, sunny spells, a brighter day to come for many compared with Monday's weather. And we keep the clear spells in many places on Tuesday evening. Temperatures falling fast through the evening, a frost forming in many places. But by midnight, the next bout of wet and windy weather is pushing in from the west-southwest. That will bring not only wind and rain, but it will bring rising temperatures by the end of the night. So frost-free in the west, whilst we've got that cold start further east, -3, -4 Celsius for some parts of northern and northeast Scotland. The rain in the west, though, quickly pushes east and northeast, arriving into eastern England by mid-morning, clearing here by lunchtime and then moving into central and northeast Scotland by the afternoon. Blustery showers follow, and those showers will be heavy with gusty winds, especially across Wales and the southwest. And Thursday, same again, wind and rain followed by blustery showers.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Tonight on Farage, as rumours swirl about a new Swiss-style relationship with the EU, we'll ask, is Brexit being betrayed? We'll celebrate the football today. Terry Butcher, former England captain, a man who played in 3 World Cups, will discuss the 6-2 win against Iran. And joining me on Talking Pints, the founder of Pineapple Dance Studios, Debbie Moore. But before all of that, let's get the news headlines.
Hello, good evening. I'm Tamsin Roberts in the GB newsroom. Wales are back in the World Cup for the first time since 1958, with kick-off just underway against the United States in Qatar. Earlier, England won their opening match against Iran, winning 6-2 with goals scored by Bellingham, Saka, Sterling, Rashford and Grealish. Both England and Wales, along with 5 other European teams, decided not to wear a rainbow-coloured anti-discrimination armband in their matches. It's over concerns players may be penalised with a yellow card on the pitch for wearing a non-sanctioned kit. Well, these England fans say they're happy with the result.
I thought they really pulled it out of the bag. It was a bit of a slow start, but once they got going, they really got going and they just couldn't stop them, really.
We were expecting all that negativity, flat back 5, but no. Goals, football, intensity and, strangely enough, a comfortable win.
If we'd have carried on, it could have been 8 or 9, but we'll settle for that. Fantastic performance. Can't really criticise anyone. Just thought everyone was pretty faultless.
The Prime Minister says re-establishing stability is the critical first step as he set out plans to stabilise the UK economy. Addressing business leaders at the Confederation of British Industry Conference, Rishi Sunak said he was placing innovation at the heart of his government agenda. He told delegates controlling inflation was critical to improving living standards and to putting the economy on a stable footing for the future. A court has heard a woman who left London to join so-called Islamic State 7 years ago was influenced by a determined and effective ISIS propaganda machine. Shamima Begum's lawyers says she should have been treated as a child trafficking victim. The 23-year-old is appealing the removal of her UK citizenship after it was revoked when she was found in a Syrian refugee camp. She has denied any involvement in terror activities. Human rights lawyer Harjap Singh Bangal says Begum should be treated the same as a British citizen.
The issue is, if she's a British citizen, which she is because she holds a British passport, or she did hold a British passport, a British citizenship, then should she be treated like other British citizens, or should she be sent to a country where she's not born in, she hasn't lived in, just because the basis that her parents came from there?
162 people have been killed and more than 700 injured in an earthquake in Indonesia, according to local officials. The epicentre of the 5.6 magnitude earthquake was the West Java region, about 75 kilometres from the capital, Jakarta. Rescuers are trying to reach survivors trapped under the rubble after at least 25 aftershocks hit the region. The comedian Joe Lycett, who claimed to have shredded £10,000 in protest at David Beckham's World Cup role, says he didn't actually do it. The comic filmed himself giving the former England player an ultimatum of standing down from his position as Qatar World Cup ambassador, or he would destroy the cash, which could go to LGBT charities. TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's back to Nigel.
Good evening, everybody. Now, we've got lots of happy things to talk about tonight. The extraordinary 6-2 win in the first game of the World Cup against Iran. That's pretty cool. We'll be talking about dancing and Debbie Moore's success in business. So lots of happy things to talk about, but let's start with this subject. Yes, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I know you hoped we'd never need to discuss Brexit again, that it was done, it was over. Get Brexit done, we were told in 2019, but I'm sorry to say that it hasn't gone away. Big front page story yesterday in the Sunday Times from what was said to be a very well-placed source, hinting that perhaps we'd go for a Swiss-style deal. Now, the Swiss deal with the European Union is complicated and actually is headed towards being really part of the single market, which means your rules would be aligned. It means annual contributions to those people in Brussels. It also means effectively free movement of people. Anything along those lines would be a betrayal of Brexit. But you could argue, you really could argue, that to some extent Brexit, we've been rather let down by this Conservative Party anyway. Apart from getting us out, and reversing the status quo on membership, what actually, in the 6 years since the referendum, have they delivered? Have things improved for Britain's fishermen? No. Have things improved for our 5.5 million men and women running small businesses or acting as sole traders? No. Have things improved in our huge financial services industry that employs so many people and raises so much revenue? Well, to date, from what I can see, not a single regulation has been changed. Has immigration changed? Well, no, actually, legal immigration, net, is still running at over 250,000 people a year. If you have a look at the small print of Jeremy Hunt's budget last week, you'll see they intend it to carry on at that number. As for illegal immigration across the English Channel, well, I think maybe you've heard enough from me on that subject for just now. So there is a feeling out there in the country amongst many that voted for Brexit that actually it's not being done properly, it's not being delivered, and into that space come the rejoiners, the Ramonas, those who actually want us to be tied to single market rules, those who lack the confidence to believe that we can actually be a self-governing, independent, democratic nation. And in the face of all of this, the appointment of the globalist, Remainer, centre-left Social Democrat Jeremy Hunt as Chancellor, I thought was the first very, very bad sign. I don't yet know whether they are going to fully betray Brexit, but I have my fears. In 2017, I wrote in the Daily Telegraph that I feared the great Brexit betrayal had begun, and sure enough, when we saw the Chequers plan, Brino, Brexit in name only, that proved to be right. And in 2019, the Conservative Party got the worst electoral whopping it has ever had in its entire 200 years. Are they making the same mistakes again? Is Brexit being betrayed? Farage at gbnews.uk. Well, joining me is somebody who's finally honed in on where the Conservative Party is, but more importantly, where much of their electorate are. Chris Hope, Daily Telegraph, famed for Chopper's podcast, the Peterborough column and many other things. Chris, there have been frantic attempts in the last 24 hours to deny that Sunday Times story, which makes me even more suspicious.
Well, I think it came from Jeremy Hunt himself, the Chancellor, talking to journalists after the autumn statement. He may have made a remark, may have mentioned Switzerland or someone else gave it to him, but enough was there for that story to appear from a senior government source in the Sunday Times. And a lot of ERG, the European Research Group of Tory MPs, they're quite happy about things today. They were nervous overnight. But to hear what Rishi Sunak said at the CBI today, I'll read it out to you. He said, under my leadership, the UK will not pursue any relationship with Europe that relies on alignment with EU laws. Now, he's saying that as Prime Minister. Now, for Tories, that's a big moment because they weren't sure, you know, Suella Braverman, we know, is in there as this token Eurosceptic at the top table. Most other people in that top team around Sunak are Remainers. I know Sunak voted for Brexit, but a few of us remember him campaigning at the time for Brexit. But he did campaign, he says, and also he did campaign for Brexit, and also he voted Brexit. But that statement there is the new credo which will reassure Brexiteers that Sunak will not do alignment like Switzerland.
Let me just cast some doubt on that. Young fella called Will Dry. Let's just see a quick clip of Will Dry speaking. This guy, I've got to tell you, he is Remainer in chief.
You're close between two legacies. The first is Brexit, which we don't want and will deprive us of the opportunities and rights that you guys lived for most of your lives. We can choose to stop Brexit, and we can choose to stop Brexit.
So, Will Dry, stop Brexit campaigner, the whole thing's a catastrophe. We learned today he's now a special advisor in Number 10. You know, do you see why some of us are getting nervous?
Yeah, that might alarm some people. We're not sure what he's doing yet, are we? We're not sure what he's doing.
We just know he's in Number 10.
He's Number 10, but people have all sorts of views. It was a democratic moment. You don't have to be a Brexiteer to work in Number 10. You can have different views. We're all human beings. You can change your views. Many others have. I mean, I was reading today how David Gauke was a rampant Eurosceptic back in 2001. Of course, then he became a Remainer in 2016-17. So you can move the dice. He's a young guy. He may have changed his views. Don't panic too much, Nigel.
When I said in 2017 in your newspaper the great Brexit betrayal has begun, you didn't believe me, did you?
I thought you were trying to hawk. The betrayal narrative is quite useful, even if you win something, because it helps you win votes for your next project.
Well, I didn't want another project.
Surely, I'm a journalist. Can I ask you the question? Are you going to reform and get back into politics, Nigel Farage?
Do you know what? After 2016, I thought my work was done. They betrayed it. The May deal was Brexit in name only. We didn't leave the European Union. I came back into the game. We gave them a very good kicking.
In European elections.
And as a result of that, they won an 80-seat majority at the next election.
They still have that.
I did as much to help the Conservatives win that majority as anybody. Frankly, they've squandered it. They've done almost nothing with an 80-seat majority. My position is, and we don't know the truth of this yet, I'm speculating tonight, and I'm worried about where we are. If they do betray Brexit, I can't just stand idly by. It's as simple as that. Now, what that means in real terms, we'll have to see. But what about your readers? How worried are they?
They are concerned about it. I mean, they are concerned about the way it's going, but I think there are things happening. Don't forget there has been the Russian invasion of Ukraine, there has been a COVID crisis. Those are two massive things which would derail the agenda of any government. So the government's trying to squeeze the last bit of governing they can in 2.5 years, 2 years before the election. The measures they're taking, you said there's been nothing good from Brexit. Well, I think you can argue that the COVID vaccine was leadership by Boris Johnson when he pushed ahead with the...
And we had the freedom to do it.
Happen. And of course, with Ukraine also, outside the EU, he did really almost bully and lead the EU into getting further involved behind the Ukrainians. You could argue that certainly. And if you look at what they're doing with this, they're stripping away, 1,500 pieces of EU legislation. I know it's happening. It's in train. I'm not supposed to the government here, but it's not as bad as you're thinking.
Okay.
But it might be. But I think don't panic yet on Brexit.
I get it. The vaccine rollout, Ukraine leadership, the AUKUS Pact. I do get those things, but there's not a direct feeling from people that voted Brexit.
I hear the CBI today. I thought Tony Danker, he's saying, what can we do? Show us the opportunity. For the first time, the Remain supporting CBI are saying to the civil servants and to ministers, show us how to take advantage of Brexit. And I thought that's quite a big challenge for the officials out there behind you in Whitehall.
Provided we keep large-scale, cheap immigration.
That's what he is saying to fill in areas of the economy where immigration is required. And, of course, that also prompted Sunak in his speech to say, no, actually, we want to get the trust of people on immigration, and that means dealing with the small boats on the South Coast that you know very well.
But he's not going to deal with the small boats on the South Coast. They haven't reduced the numbers.
You deal that by getting a better arrangement with the French, and then they help you deal with it.
How many years are we going to hear this rot for? I mean, look, I'll tell you one other thing, slightly separate to Brexit, but relevant, I think, to where we are with all of this. And that is, we did a live show, a Farage at Large, last Thursday in Southampton. Southampton has more small businesses per capita than any other city in the UK. I cannot tell you the palpable anger in that room that a Conservative Chancellor puts up corporation tax, puts up dividend tax, and will not rethink, really crushing IR35 rules. They're not Conservative at all, are they?
They're paying for a massive bill from the COVID crisis, aren't they? They've got to do something. You've got to give them a bit of a break. There was real concern last week, no question. David Jones, senior ERG supporter, he was saying, how can, I'll have to work out how we can vote for some of these measures. It's quite a big deal to vote down finance measures, and there should be a finance bill coming from the autumn statement. But whether that turns into a rebellion, I don't know yet. We'll wait to see. But I think it did feel unconservative, Liberal Democrats, some of those policies. That's the concern, OK? There's definitely a concern.
Yeah. And 55 days before, we were supposed to support a tax-cutting budget. They're a shambles. Chris Hope,
Is that the last word to Farage?
No, they're a shambles. I hope you're right, and that we're not seeing a Brexit betrayal, and I hope that Sunak meant what he said.
I think the reaction overnight to that headline in such an important paper like the Sunday Times shows how nervous they are, and I think that statement from Sunak today is now the new creed that'll be used to judge him by Brexiteers.
Chris Hope, thank you very much indeed. And OK, we can believe it for now, but we're going to keep an absolutely hawkish eye on events. In a minute, we'll be joined by England legend Terry Butcher, and we'll talk about England's win. We'll also go live to a pub in Wales to see how they're getting on. Back with you in a couple of minutes.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
And it's about standards and public life. No, I'll tell you what's hypocrisy, Narendra.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin.
We believe in the UK.
No bias, no censorship.
It just doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't doing his job as Chancellor.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio or online, every morning it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Well, some of your reactions to this Brexit debate that appears to have, from nowhere, come back to national prominence. Ian says, Hunt and Sunak cannot be trusted. Brino is their game. Tom says, it was betrayed from the beginning of May's deceitful negotiations. House of Commons and Civil Service never wanted it. But they could try and find a way for us to return in some form. And, you know, leave means leave, but it didn't, did it? There's lots of distrust out there. And I think that isn't just on Brexit. There is just distrust of politicians as a whole. Now, I'm trying to get some up-to-date news on what's happening in the Welsh game. I won't report rumours that were put down my ear until I know they were facts. But as and when I do, we'll head to a pub in Wales. But it's been the opening game today of England's campaign in the World Cup. And I'm joined by former England captain, soccer legend, and of course, 3 World Cups, Terry Butcher, that you played in. Have you ever seen an opening game like that from England?
No, I thought the football was good, the patience was good, so much added time at the end of both halves.
Was it 24 minutes of extra time?
24 minutes. It was almost as much as an extra time match, 120 minutes. It nearly touched that. But, you know, it was a horrendous collision between the Iran goalkeeper and defender that, you know, they had to have the treatment, and it didn't matter about time as long as he's all right.
There was a head injury.
A head injury, yeah. He sort of busted his nose and it was bleeding, and he carried on for a couple of minutes but then had to come off. I'm surprised he didn't come off quicker because of the protocol now with concussion. It was a concussion substitution.
Yeah, I mean, under our club rules, Premier League rules, etc., he would have come off, but this is FIFA rules, but I'll come to FIFA. I'll come to FIFA in a moment. But I mean, in terms of the way the England, because we scored 6 goals, we conceded 2. In terms of the way they played, looking like a strong unit, or were Iran a bit weaker than we possibly thought?
Well, they're 20th in the world, so they're pretty good. And they're a team this is their third successive World Cup, so they haven't progressed past the group stage, but they're well led, well organised. Carlos Queiroz, who was a Manchester United assistant manager twice, so he knows his stuff. But they just tore them to shreds at times, and I think the way that they played, particularly the younger ones, Bellingham was the man of the match, and you've got people like Saka scoring 2 goals. And then Jack Grealish scored 1 at the end. So it was very good football to get through. So it didn't matter if they're a hard team to beat. England just blitzed them out of sight. And just disappointing they conceded the 2 goals, but we'd take 6-2 any day.
I think we probably would. And we're on to, we play America on Friday. We play Wales next week, and that'll be the end of our group stage. So looking good for going through?
It's looking good, but these next 2 matches are far more difficult than Iran, so England have got to find a way. But, they may have slight injuries with Maguire, and 1 or 2 other players still can't play. So it's down to the squad. But the younger ones, people like Saka and Rashford, who scored as well, they've sort of, they've had redemption from those penalty misses in the Euros.
Yeah. Well,
nice to see.
Wembley was absolutely horrible, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wembley was absolutely horrible. Let's stay with me, please. Let's go to Qatar. Let's speak to Paul Hawkins, who's live there. Paul, I'd love to ask you, number one, were there many England fans? And if there were, what sort of jubilee were they in? And I'm hearing all sorts of stories about ticketing errors, and generally, it sounds like it might be a bit of an organisational shambles there.
We've spoken to England fans who have experienced problems, and we've spoken to some who haven't. I have to say, most of them are in a pretty jubilant mood, but don't take it from me. Let's speak to some England fans and hear from them ourselves. Guys, thanks for speaking to us. Really appreciate it. First of all, how was the game today?
Fantastic start. It was a really positive start. It was great to see so many players score. We're not reliant on Harry Kane anymore. It was really good.
Any more, or just for one game?
Just for one game.
He can have a rest.
Yeah.
Hopefully he does score. But
How did you find it?
Mate, you can't ask for a better first game. 6 goals. What can you ask for?
Yeah. And did you guys have any problems with ticketing, getting in? Because there were some reports that people were having problems with the app.
No, we got in plenty of time, a couple of hours early, but when we got there, we were concerned about the security because it was like airport-style security, so it's really slow going through. So I imagine that, a lot of other fans had problems.
Yeah, and how's your experience of Qatar been so far? You guys are staying on the cruise ship. What's it like?
Amazing. Yeah, 5-star, brilliant. Really friendly people. It's been excellent so far. Yeah, no problems whatsoever.
Yeah, and what about, they said that they wouldn't serve alcohol in the stadiums only 2 days before the tournament started. Has that impacted on your experience at all?
Not really. The games we don't normally end up drinking in. You normally have a few beers beforehand. We probably would have had some today, being there so early, but they stuck Budweiser at the back in non-covered tents. So it's
not the end of the world. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, what's your experience? How is this tournament then? Can you talk about? I mean, you haven't been here that long, but can you talk about how different it's been to other World Cups you might have been to?
Well, you asked these two. Yeah, these are the only 2 who've been to a World Cup, but.
The fact it's all in one place is easier to start navigating. Like we've got a game in a couple of days, and it's not far on one of the trains again. Normally we finish up today, have to get in a car or train and travel to another city, start again, which is quite good fun. But this time we can actually relax, enjoy the heat. Would say go for a beer, but that's not as easy. And
the media and some people have been talking a lot about the issues, the kind of social issues that were happening before the game. The England players deciding Harry Kane decided not to wear the armband because of the FIFA rules.
If he gets a booking, that defeats the object of coming and missing a game further on.
Were the fans talking about that a lot? Do you think?
It's not really up to them, is it? It's politics, really. The football need to go and play football. Okay, they're in a position where they should be able to make a stand, I guess. But they've come here for the football. They're using that as a tool. So if they go and play football and let the media, politicians talk about it, the fans come to see the football, so you'd rather Kane be playing than miss a game because he's got 2 yellow cards.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the fact FIFA then said, you're not just going to get fined for it, you're going to get a yellow card for it?
Yeah, it's a bit poor, really, isn't it? Yeah, I think yeah, it's just not very good. I don't think at all. Yeah. But
all right, and you guys are off into the fan zone just over there, where you are going to have a beer.
We are.
Do you know how much it is?
No,
Too much. Too much. Yeah, too much.
but we knew that before we come, so we just gotta. It is what it is, isn't it? So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Obviously drinking less, so we can average it out.
Yeah, you can properly soak in the England performance without it being affected by alcohol now.
It will help if Wales probably lose.
I'll let you guys get back to it. Thanks for speaking to us. Really appreciate it. Cheers, guys. Thank you. So if you want an update on the Wales game, by the way, there's an enormous score on that skyscraper. I don't know if you can make out in the distance with the American flag at the top.
I can.
0-0 in the middle, and then the Wales flag at the bottom. So there you go. That's the latest. That is the latest on the football at the moment.
Paul Hawkins, thank you very much indeed. We're some very happy but quite sober England fans there. Terry, what a relief it is. We're actually talking about football. By the way, it's 0-0 at the moment, the Wales match. I heard an erroneous rumour what they scored earlier, but we're actually talking about the football now. But, I mean, the run-up to this has been so political, it's almost unbelievable. And today, Kane was going to wear the armband. He chose not to. The England team still took the knee. You know, in your day, football wasn't dragged into politics at all, was it? I mean, shouldn't these players, shouldn't the manager try and stay out of all this stuff completely?
Yes, but when you've got so much news coverage and questions about it all the time, you have to have some form of response. But I go back to what I said before about this should all have been sorted out 12 years ago when they were actually announced as the hosts. I think it was absolute, it was a poor choice. And even Sepp Blatter, who was instrumental in getting the vote for Qatar, he said it was a bad mistake. So, you're trying to make the best of a bad job in terms of the politics, in terms of the human rights situation, the migrant workers and all that sort of thing. But at last, football is doing the talking. We've had an exciting start to this World Cup. Yeah. We've had a lot of time in matches as well, so we're getting the full package. I just wonder if the fans back in the UK, and especially England, obviously are going to celebrate what they normally do when England scores, throw the beer up in the air at the prices that we've got here, let alone Qatar, and scoring 6 goals, they couldn't afford to throw the beer up in the air. Would you throw your beer up in the air like that?
No, I never would before, to be honest with you.
I wouldn't either.
It's a bit early yet, but can we begin to think it's coming home?
Well, don't you start. The papers are all going to be saying that tomorrow as well. The 2 more difficult games coming up, so we'll wait and see. There isn't an easy group to get out of, but if England play the way they did in the first game in the next 2 matches, then they should be OK.
Terry Butcher, thank you very much indeed for joining me. Let's go to Treorchy in Wales, and Jeff Moody is there watching this game live with Wales supporters. Jeff, how's it going? Is the pub full of nervous people?
It really is. Well, it's full of noisy people. That's why I'm having to hold my ear so that I can hear you. It's very, very noisy here. There's a great atmosphere. People have been gathering throughout the day. They watched the England game with polite interest, but now Wales has kicked off. This is where it really begins. They've waited 64 years for this moment. Let's hope it's not a damp squib. I'm going to speak to the manager, the owner of the Lion here in Treorchy. Thank you for joining us, Adrian. What a good day for Wales.
Well, thank you for joining us. You're coming to my pub. It's great atmosphere. There's a good couple hundred people in here now. Lots of families, children, good mix of men and women as well. And I think that's what Welsh football is about. It's a very family friendly and a community of people together.
You don't really associate Wales with football, do you? We're so used to talking about Wales as a rugby nation. Do you think that Wales is going over to the dark side now?
Well, I think, we've always been known as a rugby nation. Maybe not so much recently with some of the results. But football, I mean, the FAW Wales have been fantastic. Bringing the community spirit together. And we've got a bit of a golden era at the minute with some of the players we got. And I think, I think rugby can learn a lot from the way football's conducting themselves at the moment. It's fantastic.
How come it's only taken you 64 years to get here?
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. We're here now. And I think for us, every game is a cup final now. It's 0-0 with the USA at the moment. We're leading them into a false sense of security. We're going to come back, and then I think it's down to the last game with England then, on Tuesday.
I mean, this is a game of Goliath, isn't David and Goliath, isn't it? The small Wales. It's the smallest nation to take part, isn't it? And the USA the biggest.
Yeah, we're the smallest nation to qualify, so Qatar's slightly smaller, but they're the host nation. So we're the smallest to qualify against the USA, who's the largest population as well. So, and I think that's that's just us in a nutshell. We're always the underdog, and that's where we thrive, I think.
Now, earlier on I spoke to you and you were confident that Wales was going to win. Half an hour into the match, are you still that confident?
Very confident. Like I said, a false sense of security. We're leading the USA now. 1-0 to Wales, I think.
1-0 to Wales. You heard it here first. Back to you.
Jeff, thank you very much indeed. 1-0 to Wales is the prediction. We'll wait and see. We'll find out. Well, I say shortly, the first 3 games that have been played have all gone beyond 100 minutes. In a moment, I'm going to show you what the FIFA president Infantino said over the weekend. It's so ghastly, we first need to take a break, I think.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12, on TV, on radio, and online.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something good happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak. Stop talking.
My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me, noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Well, Qatar was always a very controversial choice for a football World Cup. It is an Islamic country with its own form of Sharia law. There were always going to be complaints about human rights. But what I hadn't expected, and what really is my what the Farage moment, was the opening speech given by FIFA President Gianni Infantino. Just listen to this.
Today I feel Qatari.
Sorry?
Today I feel Arab.
What is he on about?
Today I feel African.
Good Lord.
Today I feel gay.
Is there anything this chap doesn't feel?
Today I feel disabled.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Today I feel a migrant worker.
he's lost the plot. I mean, the guy's lost the plot. It's completely and utterly bonkers. He went on to say that Europeans should apologise for the last 3,000 years and before it even happens, apologise for the next 3,000 years. Now, FIFA has been mired in controversy. Sepp Blatter, of course, his predecessor, when that decision was made 12 years ago, all sorts of scandals, all sorts of problems. I now think the time has come to face up to the truth, to bite the bullet. It's time we left FIFA, and if necessary, we'll have to have a referendum to do so. They are not fit for purpose. Now, The Jungle, of course, Matt Hancock in The Jungle, doing rather better, I think, than some thought. But Ant and Dec last night on their after-show podcast, they seem to suggest that somebody else ought to go into The Jungle. Have a look at this.
Fantastic, says Nigel Farage.
That, Dan, Dantastic 1987, is a very, very good idea. Very good idea.
I'd like to see that.
Well done, Dan.
Well, I have to say, there's been a lot of speculation over the years about me going into The Jungle. It's appeared in all sorts of newspapers. The Daily Star seem to talk about it every single year that goes by. And it is true. I have been approached several times by I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here. And I've always ruled it out. I've never thought it would be a good thing to do. I thought it was all rather humiliating, frankly. But I suppose you can never, ever say never. I'd love to get actually some of your reactions, some of your feedback, whether you think I should be in the jungle or whether you think we should leave it to people like Matt Hancock. Now, she was an absolute sensation when she was the first woman to launch a company onto the stock exchange back in the early 1980s, and 40 years on, Pineapple Dance Studios is still going strong. My Talking Pints guest tonight is Debbie Moore.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Steyn. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, Talking Pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Are authorities, are communities doing all they can to combat violent crime? With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
It's that time of the day, my favourite time of the day, and it is Talking Pints. And I'm delighted to be joined by Debbie Moore. Debbie, welcome.
Thank you.
To the programme.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you. Good to see you. Now, yours is a story that should inspire people out there who don't necessarily have a good time at school, because you left school, as I understand it, without a lot of qualifications.
Yeah, I left school at 15. I didn't have any O-levels or anything. I went to a commercial college, and it was just to learn. I mean, in those days, you did shorthand and typing.
Yeah.
So I did that for a few months in Manchester. I grew up in Manchester, and the college was in Fountain Street, and right next door to the college was a club called 3 Coins in Fountain. So we sort of hung out there really. But I started modelling when I was 15. So basically, I kind of went to the University of the World because it's a lot of travelling and you have to learn to be independent. So
modelling it was, and then, as I've read, you know, a marriage that perhaps didn't go the way you might have liked it to go, and suddenly dancing is recommended to you almost for sort of health reasons as much as anything else.
Yes. So the marriage went wrong, and I, I put on a lot of weight. I had an underactive thyroid, so I now couldn't model anymore. I was working in 2 restaurants to pay the rent because I'd moved to London by this time in 1968, and so I went to see various doctors, and they said, oh, you have to take thyroxine for the rest of your life. I didn't like the idea of side effects and stuff. So anyway, a homeopathic doctor, Dr. Sharma, he said, you need to find a dance class. It's the finest way to lose weight. It exercises every muscle in your body. It's uplifting, and I was depressed, as you can imagine. Mm-hmm. And the music. So that's what I did, and I found there was a kind of broken down studio in Floral Street in Covent Garden. Ollie Phillips was teaching there, and a few others. This was we're now mid-70s, and so I used to go with Lorraine Chase. We used to go to do these dance classes, and then one Monday it said closing on Friday, like 5 days' notice, which was horrendous. There was about 30 teachers and a lot of dancers, and by this time I was so impressed by dancers. I was so inspired by how hard they worked, and I realised there was nowhere in London for dancers, both amateur and professional. And so that was my moment when I thought, well, I need to open. And just across the street was Langley Street with all these derelict warehouses.
So Covent Garden had kind of closed down effectively.
Yes, the whole fruit market had moved out in the mid-70s to 9 Elms. Yeah. And so I think it was like the fruit. Langley Street was the fruit, it was sort of bananas and pineapples. So it was a pineapple warehouse. And that was it. I was driven to...
What gave you the confidence to think you could take this over, set up a business and make this work without any previous business experience?
Do you know, so many women, so many people wrote to me that saying exactly that. How do you, I'd love to start my own business, or I just wouldn't have the confidence. Well, I didn't have the confidence. What you have to do is actually have the courage. You have to just be very brave and go for it and take risks and work very, very hard. And as you achieve and it begins to happen, that's when your confidence starts to come.
So it's courage.
Yes.
That's the quality.
Yeah.
Courage.
Courage, and also a work ethic. You know, the ability to work hard. A lot of common sense you need to get your business going, and just hard work, and talking to, seeing people who are successful, finding out, getting advice from people, and just being very tenacious.
But it became successful pretty quickly.
Very quickly.
It just took off.
Yes.
Is that because there just was a gap in the market, that people weren't doing this?
Yeah, and it was the beginning of MTV. It was the beginning of musicals. It was all just beginning, and there was nowhere. And the point was that to get into a dance school, for every dance school place, there was 100 kids trying to get into these dance schools. And I realized this very early on and thought, well, if I could make a place that's open so anybody can come, they can start at absolute beginner and go right through to advanced professional, and then become a choreographer or a dancer in a West End show if that's their dream.
Yeah.
Or they can, like, we have cabbies who come and do. I must give a shout out. Cabbies are so great.
Aren't they?
Aren't they just?
Yeah,
and
really
they have a bad lot. There's so many closed roads and all these.
Sadiq Khan is not top of their popularity list,
but
is he?
not me, because he's also closed half the streets in Covent Garden for no reason. It's the most important tourist centre, Covent Garden.
Yeah.
They come from all over the world, and the cabs can't even pick up from the hotels or anything. So I don't know what. None of it makes any sense,
No.
but we won't go down that
No,
road.
but this thing took off, and it took off in the most extraordinary way. And in 1982, on the London Stock Exchange, you caused a complete sensation. And it seems hard to believe that it's only 40 years ago, but you were the first woman, and there you are, standing, my father standing just to the left of you with a dark suit on, and my father sort of took you around the stock exchange that day and introduced you to people. I mean, even having a woman on the stock exchange floor, because there weren't very many that worked down there, but hard to believe, you were the first woman to take a company public on the London Stock Exchange, and you were front page of the Evening Standard and everywhere. That must have been a remarkable day.
Well, we didn't know it was going to be. I just needed to raise more money because I needed more space, because the dancers, like you said, not only were the dancers coming in, but all the, like Freddie Mercury and Tina, all those people were coming in to be choreographed, and then all the kids and the children, and then all the musicals that ever were. So I needed more space. I needed to raise more money, and I couldn't borrow any more from the bank. So somebody said, oh, well, if you go public, you can. I also wanted to open in New York. So God knows why I was. Anyway, I did. And so that's why we went public. But we didn't expect, I think that day, nothing much was happening. There wasn't a train crash or anything. So I made the front of all the papers.
You did? It was a complete sensation.
I was top of all the news.
And suddenly you were a mega celebrity and off to meet the Prime Minister in Downing Street and all sorts of things.
I know. And got a big award from the Duke of Edinburgh, and it just went on. But the thing, what was amazing, what's astonishing is that it took a model from Manchester. That's what to me is staggering. A model from Manchester with a dance studio to be the first woman. And so it was kind of the first glamour stock. So it did set a bit of a trend that then after me, Andrew Lloyd Webber took Really Useful company, and Richard Branson took Virgin. So we were like the new kind of people, with public companies, but none of us liked it. You can't really be an entrepreneur, because by the time you've presented what you're going to do, you've gone off the idea anyway. So I brought it back. I brought it back at the end of the 80s, followed swiftly by Richard Branson, actually, and Andrew Lloyd Webber, because we were all saying, we can't do this.
And it inhibits you in a way, doesn't it?
Sorry?
Being a public company inhibits in a way.
Oh, totally. You can't do anything.
But you can raise cash, but it comes at a price.
Yes.
No, I get that.
I don't regret it.
No.
I mean, God, bloody hell, it made me.
Well, the publicity was just
the publicity
off the charts.
Off the charts.
It was a.
Yeah.
Well, I just started working in the city at that moment in time, and I remember it was a very, very big thing. You know, you said you've opened up in New York, but I mean, this business, you know, it's 40 years on, still thriving, dancing. Well, I mean, just look at Strictly Come Dancing and the audiences that watch it. It seems that dancing's in a very healthy place.
I think, you know, we're back to, we're busier than we were pre-pandemic, and because it is so good for your health, and we get a lot of kids on the spectrum, and a lot of people with problems. But when they come in, I call it the pineapple pleasure dome, you know, because they kind of take off this heavy coat of problems and they walk through the door, and it's wonderful, and the music, and it's just such an amazing place. And all the shows are rehearsing at the moment. They're all back. It's just wonderful to have all the Disney shows are back in, and you know, Mamma Mia and Pretty Woman and Cher Show. Arlene's been in with Cher Show.
Yep.
It's just, it's amazing. Oh, and we had Matt Goss rehearsing for Strictly as well. So Strictly users. And so that's half of it. And then the other half is just for anybody who wants to have a bit of fun.
No, and you've been recognised with an OBE, of course, by the Queen, sadly no longer with us. And we must mention a bit of football. We've got to mention the World Cup, of course. Your parents were at the '66.
Yes, so they were. And of course, because I'm from Manchester, I'm a Manchester City supporter. And so I used to go when I was very small with my dad to all the matches, you know, and many a derby match have been, you know, passed to the front and so on. And because if you live in Manchester, you're a Man City supporter. It's only if you live anywhere else that you're a Man United supporter. And yes, hung out with Mike Summerby, which of course pleased my dad, but also hung out with Georgie Best,
yes,
which didn't please my dad. But he was amazing. I mean, he played football like a ballet dancer. And I think this whole thing about football and the team, you know, if you go back to people ask me about a business, you can only build a business like that becomes successful if you have a team. You build your team. So it's a bit like football, because you have your team leader. Like we have our teachers, and they come. Everybody becomes friends, and you know, becomes a team, and all the people that work in Pineapple all work. It's very important, I think, as a way to in this time when it's recession, and you know, I've been through a few of those. I mean, you know, when I was building Pineapple, it was the steel strike, just when we were about to build our fire escape. But we didn't really know. We didn't know about inflation then, because it wasn't all over. It's not like depressing us every 5 minutes.
Debbie, you've overcome all sorts of things. You're an inspiration to those out there who haven't done so well at school. You've built a team and brought a lot of happiness to a lot of people. And thank you for joining me on Talking Pints.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved it, and I love your programme. Cheers again.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I've got a couple of questions that have been sent in for you. Under Barrage the Farage, will England win the World Cup? Is football coming home? Well, I did ask Terry Butcher that earlier. He dodged it very, very neatly. Truth is, it's probably a little bit early to say, but we're off to a very, very good start. I would love to see it. We did it in the 2020 cricket the other day, so who knows? Robbo says, do you think Miss Begum should be allowed back into the UK? If Miss Begum is allowed back into the UK, there'll be about 65 more people in a similar position to her, and I'm not sure they're bringing a great asset to us. Matt asks, what system of proportional representation do you want in the UK? Well, the easiest and cleanest would be AV+, but there are many, many other systems, and I haven't got time to go through them now. What I have got time to do is to tell you that we did Farage at Larges at Southampton last Thursday, Wembley last Friday, and they're going very, very well. This week, we're going to Clacton-on-Sea. Clacton was Brexit country. It was, of course, UKIP land in a very, very big way. 6 years on from the referendum, I want to ask the people of Clacton, do you think the Conservative Party have delivered the Brexit that you wanted? You want to come and join me live at 7 o'clock in Clacton? Go to gbnews.uk to get your tickets. You better be quick. They'll be full for the morning. But now, it's over to Mark Steyn.
I'm still reeling over seeing Debbie Moore with you, Nigel. I took a dance class at her studio half a lifetime ago, and I've never regretted it. She's a terrific businesswoman and a terrific dance studio at her place in Covent Garden. I'm old, and he's distracted me with his talking point. I'm in a song and dance mood, and in fact, I've just got the total wreckage of British politics to contemplate in the next 60 minutes, so there's not going to be a lot of dancing in that unless one of my guests fails to turn up. We've got a great lineup for you. We've got Arlene Foster from GB News, we have James Melville, we have Patrick O'Flynn, and we have Viscount Monkton. Keir Starmer's getting rid of the House of Lords, but actually Tony Blair already did that a quarter century ago. It's all coming up right after the weather. See you in a couple of minutes.
Hi there, Aidan McGibbon here with the latest forecast from the Met Office. Showers overnight will continue in many places, but eventually clear spells will develop, and under those clear skies, a frost and fog is likely. But for the time being, low pressure in charge of the weather. A couple of lows across the UK, bringing weather fronts in. Those weather fronts have stalled across central parts of the UK. So overnight, they'll continue to bring some persistent rain for a time to Northern Ireland, for example, North Wales, Northern England and the North Midlands. But eventually the rain turns more patchy, more on and off. And increasingly, it will be showers rather than longer spells of rain. Very showery towards the south and southwest with a gusty wind, as well as the far north. But in between, some clear spells and a touch of frost first thing. Quite murky, I think, across central parts of England into Wales, northern England, with some fog and low cloud in places. That'll lift through the morning, brighter skies return, and by the afternoon, showers will be confined to the southwest and the north and northeast, where there could be some longer spells of rain and a strong wind. Otherwise, away from these showers, sunny spells, a brighter day to come for many compared with Monday's weather. And we keep the clear spells in many places on Tuesday evening. Temperatures falling fast through the evening, a frost forming in many places. But by midnight, the next bout of wet and windy weather is pushing in from the west-southwest. That will bring not only wind and rain, but it will bring rising temperatures by the end of the night. So frost-free in the west, whilst we've got that cold start further east, -3, -4 Celsius for some parts of northern and northeast Scotland. The rain in the west, though, quickly pushes east and northeast, arriving into eastern England by mid-morning, clearing here by lunchtime and then moving into central and northeast Scotland by the afternoon. Blustery showers follow, and those showers will be heavy with gusty winds, especially across Wales and the southwest. And Thursday, same again, wind and rain followed by blustery showers.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
And it's about standards and public life. No, I'll tell you what's hypocrisy, Narinda.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin.
We believe in the UK.
No bias, no censorship.
It just doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't doing his job as Chancellor.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hey, welcome along to the Mark Steyn Show, where the hits just keep on coming. As you know, we ended last week with the highest inflation since January 1982. That's a long time ago, so long ago that Bucks Fizz were number one. The Land of Make-Believe. That's the first music video filmed in the Bank of England Forecasting Office. As you know, we also ended last week with the biggest drop in living standards since 1956. That's a long time ago. So long ago that Doris Day was number one.
Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera.
Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. That's Jeremy Hunt's autumn statement translated into English. As you know, we also ended the week with Mr. Hunt imposing the biggest tax burden on you since the Second World War, but without the mitigating circumstances of the Second World War. That's a long time ago, so long ago that Britain didn't even have a pop chart. But America did, and in 1948, which was the last time the UK tax burden was this high, Woody Woodpecker was number one.
Guess who?
That's the Woody Woodpecker song. He's a pecking it all day long. Doesn't this government feel like Woody Woodpecker? They've pecked their way through everything. So now it's all riddled with holes, from the NHS to the immigration system, and still they won't stop pecking. Everything is wrecked. They did it, but you're going to pay for it. Rishi Rich, Jeremy Hunt, Boris Johnson will all be enriched and rewarded for pecking Britain hollow. In the land of make-believe, whatever will be, will be. But the one thing you can take to the bank is that they're still a-pecking it all day long. We're going to prowl through aspects of the wreckage tonight with a stellar lineup. Patrick O'Flynn, Arlene Foster, James Melville, Christopher Monkton, and of course the most important part of the show, you. Can you see light at the end of the tunnel? Or is that just the headlamps of another lorry load of Albanian asylum seekers? Email me, gbviews@gbnews.uk. You can tweet me at gbnews. It's all coming up after Tamsin Roberts with the latest news. Tamsin.